Hey everybody, welcome back to Church Talk. My name is Rob, and today we're going to be talking about should church musicians get paid? I was watching a YouTube video a while back, and the guy was talking about church musicians being paid. And his perspective on it was, and I can't remember who it was, or I'd credit them. Maybe I should go look it back up, and I'll try to put a link down below. But I was watching his video, and he made a lot of sense. He was talking about how, in Leviticus, how the Levites were paid. But really, if we go a little bit deeper into that, the Levites took care of the church. They took care of the temple. They lived there and took care of the place. So they weren't only the musicians, but they took care of the house of God. So when we bring it down to today's musicians, yes, I do believe that we can compare our musicians to the Levites. I do believe that we do carry the anointing but we do provide the means of which we come together and we sing songs to the Lord. So yeah, I understand what he's saying about the Levites. But, when we bring it down to today, we're not living in the church taking care of the things of the church. We're bringing our gifts and our talents to the Lord. So, yes, I believe it would be a great thing for people in the church to be paid. I think that would be good. But at the same time, my opinion is we should be willing to give of ourselves. And what this gentleman was talking about, he's talking about professional musicians being paid by the church. I don't really know. I'm both ways on this one. I'm not against people being paid by the church if that's what they're doing. I have nothing against that. But many churches cannot afford to pay everybody that's doing something. So if you look at paying your musicians, now you have to look at paying your person who comes in and cleans the church for you. Then you have to look at the one who is volunteering their time to come mow the grass. You have to, and all these things I think are worthy of being paid. But when you have someone coming in volunteering and they're not asking for money, it's not a service they're providing for an exchange of $1, but it's a volunteer that I want to help take care of the house of God. And if we look back at that, that's what the Levites done. The Levites took care of the house of God. So we can't only equate that to music, but we have to equate that to anything that's taking care of the house of God. So should musicians be paid? Well, hey guys, just a quick break from the video. Just want to say thank you for watching. And if this is the type of content that you like, make sure that you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the bell so you'll be notified when I upload new videos. And make sure you give it a like so that YouTube will continue to push this content on out to others. And one more thing, head over to robandjen.com/church talk. You can find like the t-shirt I'm wearing, the mug that we have. Enough of that, now back to our video. My answer is really, it depends. I think that if you are a very large church and you have a good sized budget and you want to pay your musicians, I think that's great. They can be paid for what they're doing on Sunday. Now, what can happen with that, I believe, is that it would be very easy to look at that as a job and not as a ministry. I think that's important for all of us to remember that when we're in the music ministry, we are ministering to the Lord, and we are providing the means in which the congregation can come together and worship the Lord corporately. We're not providing worship for people. We're not providing worship for anybody, and we're not doing anybody's worship for them. But we are providing the music. We're providing the means in which the body can come together and worship the Lord with music. Now, if you want professional musicians, yeah, you may have to pay them if if you don't have any in your church locally already. But if you're a church, if you're the average size church, which I'm finding out the average size church in America is between 50 to 60 people. So if you have with around 50 to 60 people in your congregation, and you have to pay your musicians, you have to pay the people who cut the grass, you got to pay the person who cleans, you got to pay the pastor because you want a full-time pastor, you want to be able to call on him day and night, you want him to come be with you in the hospital, you want him to do all the things that a pastor does. Well, he needs to be paid. He needs to be full-time so he can attend to the people of the church. And so that would be his job. And I think we need to make sure that we can differentiate. We can differentiate between a job and the ministry. The ministry takes care of his salary so that he can apply all of his time towards the people of the church. All of his time that he would normally be working. And that doesn't mean that the church people gets 100% of his time and his family doesn't get any. And this is a whole different video that we may talk about with some pastors. We'll get their perspective on that. But back to the musicians. So I believe what can happen is we can hire somebody to come in and do the music for us and provide a holy thing with worship. And they may not believe like we do, or they may not believe at all, and we just have a hireling providing music, and it's not going to be anointed. There may be talent there may be a gifting there, but there may not be an anointing present. So I think we run into the risk and the danger of not allowing the anointing to flow when we're looking at hiring out musicians. Now, if your musicians are already there, they're volunteering, they're part of your church, they believe the same, and you want to give them a gift, I think that is perfectly fine. I know some musicians that wouldn't even take it because they have another job and that's what they give to the church. And I know some musicians that would say, hey, that is great, I could really use it, that will help me out a lot, and they'll be appreciative of it. So I think the big answer to this is it really depends. There's nothing wrong with paying people in your church. I mean, there's nothing wrong with, when you get to the size of some of these churches that, they have good sized budgets. You can afford to pay a cameraman. You can afford to pay not just a cameraman, but a whole entire crew to make a production of your church service look really great for online presence and for if you're putting it out on television. You can hire multiple pastors to be over top of multiple ministries, and there's nothing at all wrong with that at all. And there's nothing wrong with paying the people that do ministries in your church. But I think that what we forget many times when we're talking about this is the size of our congregations. The average size congregation being between 50 and 60 people cannot afford to pay everybody that's working within the church. Because if so, out of 50 people, there's probably 5 to 10 people that's doing a lot of the work, if not all of the work. And you cannot pay 5 to 10 people on what 50 or 60 people can be giving in their tithes and in their offerings. You just can't do it. Plus paying the mortgage and the insurance so I think the big answer here is it really depends. There's nothing at all wrong with it, but I don't think there's anything wrong with not paying musicians as well. I think it all depends on where the church is at and the heart of all of it. If you're hiring people, I don't think that's a good idea. I would stray from that idea and say I'm not going to hire out musicians. Now it's different if you're going to hire a Christian band to come in for to give a I hate to use the word concert, but that's what it is. If you're giving a concert, or if you were going to hire a band to come in and do worship, and that's what they are, they're worship leaders, and you're paying them because they have travel. But your normal every week musicians and singers, should they be paid? It's really up to each each church and what the singer and musician agrees upon. Most of the time, there's no money that's ever talked about. There's no money that is ever, it's not, hey, I will play if you pay me, or hey, I want to pay you to play for us. Most of the time, it is a church, music ministry, the minister of music or the worship pastor, whatever you want to call them. They find out that somebody has a gift in music, and sometimes they're approached, or sometimes they approach the worship leader, and hey, there's a gifting here. Let's just see if everything will work out. Let's join us for some practices, and we'll see how things go. And it just kind of naturally flows, and they kind of naturally become part of the team. And so yeah, the main answer here is it really depends. It just depends on every single church. So I don't think there's an answer like yes, musicians should be paid, or no, I don't think it's right. I think it really depends on each individual church and individual person as well. But as a blanket statement, I would say I would never expect it to be paid from my local church unless I was hired as, like, if it was my full-time job and I was hired to be the worship pastor and to do other things within the church, then that's totally different. But when you come in and there's no money that's talked about, there's nothing set up. It's just a volunteer basis. We shouldn't expect that, but I do think it's great when churches give that love offering to say, hey, thank you for all the work that you've been doing. Because that happens a lot. Many churches, they can't afford to bring somebody on staff, but they can afford to give them a love offering every once in a while to say thank you for the work that you're doing. It's not going unnoticed. And churches, if you're not doing that, if you're never paying, if you're never giving a gift to your worship leaders or to your worship pastor or to anybody that's giving, I would recommend that every once in a while you give them a gift just to say thank you for what you're doing. Now, if it's we're talking about that's the only thing that a person does is they show up and they play guitar every week. Yeah, I think we can give them a monetary blessing every once in a while, but maybe it's something different. Maybe it's they don't want money for playing, but maybe every once in a while just a recognition of making a video of a spotlight or whatever and saying thank you to whomever you're thanking, making them feel appreciated. I think that goes a long way. And sometimes that's more so than money, because most people that I know, they're not playing at their church for any money. They don't want money given to them. They want to give of their time and give of their talent, and they give of their treasure. So yeah, it comes down to it depends. Should church musicians be paid? It depends. So there's my answer. And like I say, I'll find his video and I will put a link to it down below to where you can go watch that video that I'm referring to. And guys, we will see you all next time on Church Talk. Thanks for watching.